Another foundational assumption that people don't really think about is that science, do we call, for instance, is Isaac Newton a scientist? Because in many ways, this civilization would not recognize Isaac Newton as a scientist because he had many, many metaphysical assumptions about his work and his worldview. He believed, for instance, deeply in God. He believed in the Bible. He believed that the world was a supernatural event. Our modern science says that you cannot have recourse to the supernatural to explain anything. And this is why Darwinism makes so much sense, because you've eliminated the metaphysical perspective. You've eliminated the divine. So you cannot explain being by something outside of being. You cannot explain being by something that cannot be proved empirically. And therefore, we have to determine, where did life come from? Without God, where did life come from? That is a metaphysical assumption. And that's why Darwin is so compelling, because he's making that assumption. He's assuming that we cannot have recourse to the divine, because if we do, it's no longer scientific. That is an assumption of this civilization. That's not an assumption of our civilization. So these are really important distinctions that are often not made. Another one is the idea, for instance, that belief is irrational. Or people say, belief, why should I have faith in something? Because faith is believing without evidence. This is a very common trope in modern culture. You'll hear it from what they call the new atheists, people like Sam Harris, who will literally say, faith is belief without evidence. That has never been true for the Abrahamic tradition. One of the most important aspects of the Abrahamic traditions was to ground their faith in reason. And they gave you cannot study, if you take a survey course on religion, like the philosophy of religion, they'll do St. Thomas Aquinas, his 5 proofs for the existence of God. And they give them in very superficial, these truncated versions, reductive. You have to spend a great deal of time to understand what Aquinas, and 3 out of the 5 he got from the Muslims. But you have to work very hard to understand why he came to those conclusions. The Summa is a summary of those. He has an entire metaphysical approach to those 5 proofs for the existence of God, which used to take about 15 years before you could actually study those and really understand those proofs. Now they're taught in a philosophy course on religion as if, well, here it is. Here's their proofs for the existence of God. No, those aren't the proofs. Those are the conclusions of the proofs. And the same is true for the Kalam cosmological argument that the Muslims embedded their worldview in. The Kalam cosmological argument takes a good deal of time to understand. It can't be understood simplistically. So our civilization, it's not my contention. It's the contention of some of the most brilliant minds in our civilization right now. One of them is Sayyid Naqib al-Attas, who's a true metaphysician, who really believes that the root of our crisis is a metaphysical crisis. And until we address the metaphysical crisis, we will only be dealing with the superficial.